in 1969, they started to consider the district court and what to do with the district court and about the formation of the district court and doing away with the courts of limited jurisdiction at that point. People's court, things along those lines.
Trial magistrates.
And trial magistrates. Basically, went to election in 1970, and the first members of the district court were then appointed in 1970, and at that point, our first judges were Judge Hinkle was the administrative judge. We had 12 judges appointed, and there were 2 vacancies. We had Judge Land, Judge Kardash, Cullen Horms, Ed Hardesty, Fred Waldrop, Judge Buchanan, Werner Scholler, and Alan Bazell were the first judges appointed to our district court here in Baltimore County. And at that time, circuit court, Judge Barrett was still the chief. We had Judges Rain, Menchine, Judge Turnbull, Walter Jennifer, Ken Proctor, John McGuire, Walter Hale, and Kent McDaniel. Judges Dyer and Close were from Harford County. I believe Hall Hammond was the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, and of course he was from Baltimore County. Bar Association really took off in the 1970s, early 70s, in membership, because it was then that it was basically voted on to open things up. And that was when you started to have the votes to relax who could belong to the association from the city. I remember going to the Bar Association meetings to basically say, it's time has come for us to open up the Bar Association so that you don't have to have a law office here in the county as long as you live in the county. And that was really the major change insofar as opening up the membership, and when the membership really started to expand. You'd go over to the Green Spring Club, and eventually we had to move it from there because it got so crowded. The bar banquet was the singular event that the Baltimore County Bar Association had in those days. And people would come from all over the state and out of state even because of the people who would be gathered at the bar banquet. When you did polls of the members, what was the #1 reason you joined the association? And many people would say for the bar banquet. The association, other than the bar banquet, had a history of doing picnics or dinners with Harford County attorneys, because that was really where the affiliation was with Harford County, more so than with the city attorneys. We shared judges with them, so it was viewed that we were more closely akin to them in the same judicial circuit. So we had a good relationship with Harford County. Obviously, after we opened up the membership to city attorneys and attorneys who lived in the county or practiced, now I think it's opened up to just basically whomever wants to join. You don't need so much if you have a practice in the county or substantial practice in the county, or you live in the county, you need not even have an office here anymore. And that's why the membership of the association has grown so. It's interesting that even with the growth in membership, some of the concern that the executive committee would become under the thumb of the major city firms has never really been realized. There have been very few attorneys over the years who actually have come from the major Baltimore City law firms that have been head of the Bar Association. I'm not sure, as I think about who is on the current executive board, that any of them are from any of the major law firms in the city. So that never came to fruition. The other issue that really concerned members was whether or not to have judges participate in the association. And that was sort of a more recent vintage, really. Judge Turnbull was the first judge to become, acting judge to become head of the Bar Association. And there was a real concern over whether or not, when he was appointed, whether or not to the bench, whether or not he should retain and still be a member. because there was always thought, how is the Bar Association going to be critical of the judges? How do they maintain their separation? But I think as the state assumed more and more control through the gubernatorial appointments and appointments committees that came about in the 1970s, as they assumed more control through the Grievance Commission, that attorneys didn't have the say over the judges that they formerly had. And so it was thought better to incorporate the judges into the discussions among attorneys, to basically bring them and keep them in the fold of the Society of Attorneys so that they could have one-on-one conversations, and that by becoming a member of the bench, you don't necessarily leave the bar. And so it was thought it's a good idea to keep them in. And by the time Judge Turnbull was in line for the presidency, it was thought it's better that they become head of the Bar Association. That way they'll be in touch with the members and the communication flow will be that much better. There was also a concern in the 1960s and 70s as the Bar Association was wrestling whether or not to grow, that they didn't want to mimic the roles of the State Bar Association. The Maryland State Bar Association has done an excellent job in keeping its dues down and performing certain functions, continuing legal education being one of the functions it performed over the years, coordinating activities among attorneys. And this association did not want to mimic that association. And there was a lot of pride in being a member of the Baltimore County Bar Association. And so the members wanted to make sure it kept a distinction there. But the services that the members want are very similar to that. They want to have continuing legal education. They want to have information. So we adopted the newsletter and the Advocate in the 1980s and began to be published originally on a quarterly basis, now on a monthly basis. And that communication was found to be very positive. Lawyer referral grew in size and became a major component of the Bar Association activities. And obviously with the formation and the placement of a bar office in the courthouse in the mid-1970s, when the new county courts building was open in the mid-70s, that became a focal point for activities. If you're going to have a staff, you have to provide for income for that staff. You have to provide for activities based that would be income producing. So we sort of grew as the association grew and undertook new activities that people wanted to join, become a part of, and contribute to. So that's pretty much sort of a framework, I guess, of a history of the Bar Association.